Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning to Dr. Wan Zumusni binti Wan Mustafa. My name is Nur Azima binti Ibrahim. I am from class N4 AM 110 3D. Today I would like to present about a movie title which is Miss Peregrine Home for Peculiar Children. This movie is based on the novel Miss Peregrine Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Rick. Miss Peregrine Home for Peculiar Children is a contemporary fantasy debut novel by American author Ransom Rick. The story is told through a combination of narrative and mix of vernacular and found photography from the personal archive of collector listed by the author. The synopsis of this movie is when his beloved grandfather leaves Jack clues to a mystery that spans different worlds and different times. He finds a magical place known as Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, but the mystery and danger deepen as he gets to know the residents and learns about their special powers and their terrifying enemies. Ultimately, Jack discovers that only his own special peculiarity can save his new friends from terrifying enemy called Hologats. The genre of this movie is, it's about mystery, children literature, horror fictions, young adult fiction, dark fantasy and fantasy fiction. But in fact, it also contains elements of romance and even relationship between friends. The setting from this movie, time is set on September 3, 1940. True, it's actually September 2, but because of the time loop, Miss Peregrine fixed the times on 2 September because in 3 September, that place has been haunted and bebombed. While the place that we're setting in this movie, Cairnholm, is a fiction island located in Wales. There are two setting placed on Cairnholms in the story, one which is present or the day Cairnholms, and the Cairnholms loop or past time. The main character in this movie, which is Jacob or Jack Portman, cast by S. Maxwell Thornton Fred Butterfield. Jacob Magellan Portman is a male peculiar with the peculiarity of being librarian in the Library of Souls. He is the son of Marion Portman and Franklin Portman and the grandson of Abraham Portman. Abraham Portman plays an important role in Jacob's childhood. His peculiarity is like his grandfather. Jacob has ability to see hollows, unlike other peculiar children who could only see their shadow. He also able to talk to, control hollows and start to develop it in the Library of Souls. The next cast in this movie is Miss Elma Peregrine, cast by Eva Green, is a female peculiar with the peculiarity of being imbrowned. She is the headmaster of her school for peculiar children in a loop on Cairnholms. She is an embryon, which gives her power to manipulate time in various ways and turn into bird. The next is Emma Bloom, cast by Ella Purnell. Her peculiarity is revelations. Emma was lighter than air from the time minutes she was born. She has to wear wet shoes so she does not flew away from a cushionless she does. The last cast, which is Mr. Baroon, cast by Samuel L. Jackson. Mr. Baroon is a weak. He was killed when Jacob and other peculiar tried to save Miss Peregrine along with the other embryons by one of his own hologats. She can turn his arm into any weapon of his choice, such as knife, axe, machete, and either. The next is the plot in this movie is when Jacob Portman was young. His grandfather once told him that he had lived in a special orphan for peculiar children run by Miss Peregrine. As Jacob grows older, he did not believe what his grandfather told him a story about, and after she finds his dying grandfather and witness a strange humanoid created only he can see it, the orphans, Jacob encouraged a mysterious girl whom he followed and questioned. They reached the bags before Jacob realized that the inn and people are now different. That's Jacob realized that he finally in the loop that he can find Miss Peregrine's house for a peculiar children, and that time he saw Emma Bloom, that the one who helped him before. So she also explained about the Miss Peregrine home, and Jacob come and find Miss Peregrine, and Miss Peregrine explained about their grandfather ability and about the hologas, and Jacob finally surprised because she told Jacob that Jacob has a peculiarity, which is he peculiarity same as his grandfather. So Jacob decided to stay in the time of loop so that he and his companions can escape from Mr. Baroon and the hologats. They make their way back to the orphan, but discover that Mr. Baroon has kidnapped Miss Peregrine, and Mr. Baroon falls into the darkness. In my opinion, the weakness of this movie is it's quite difficult to understand while watching this if you are not focused, because they have a time loop, so you need to focus and understand what time is this scene is and what time is this scene is. The second one is the relationship between Jacob and Enoch, and lastly the weakness is face of Mr. Baroon and his hologas is kind of scary. So I don't think this movie is quite good for children under 30 to watch it, because kind of scary because it's dark fantasy. While the strength of this movie is the plot are very interesting and not boring to watch. All scenes are doing well, including the cast and the filming set. Also, the scene when all peculiar children cooperate with Jacob to save Miss Peregrine from Mr. Baroon. It's like it shows that true friendship. Moral of the story is this movie teaches us to trust people. Trust is expressed greatly through this story. Firstly, when Jacob had to trust that his grandfather was telling the truth about the monster and the island. It also we can see this moral value at Emma. She trusts that Jacob is not a friend of the monster when she lead him to Miss Peregrine's house. All of the children must then trust Jacob when they allow him into the house and let him fight the monster with them. Without trust, Jacob would have never found out the truth about his grandfather. Other than that, courage is one of the important traits for a peculiar children. They need to be brave enough to attack the hologas because they cannot see the hologas except Jacob. The memorable scene is when Jacob came back after help Miss Peregrine and he saw his grandfather Abby live again while waiting for him in the front of the house. Jacob ran to his grandfather and gave him a hug. Jacob also cried because he really missed his grandfather, and he also thankful that he get a second chance to see his grandfather again. I highly recommended this movie if you are someone who loves to watch fantasy movie, because this movie has a great scene that have a good fantasy mood that I would think that you guys will love it. It will change the way you see as a friend and family after watching this movie, because this movie teach us how important you to trust your friends and your family. And this movie is like, this movie will give you a little bit scene that you need to think what will happen next. So thank you to Dr. Wan Zumusni because here what I'm trying to present. I hope that you enjoy